welcome back to MMA on the Moon, episode 4 coming in your way. Let's start off with some really big news. UFC partnership, brand new deal with Paramount, CBS. Thank God we are getting off of ESPN. Devin, I got to get your thoughts on this, dude.
Yeah, man, I think it's a massive deal for the UFC. I think it's good for the fans. I think it's good for the UFC. It's a 7 year, $7.7 billion contract. Um, it's going to be with Paramount Plus and partnered with CBS, so there will be certain events. What they're saying is there will be 4 events per year that's going to also be casted on CBS. Um, I know they said they got rid of the pay-per-view model, and most fights won't have a pay-per-view. Dana said there could be one-off fights where it's a really big card or something historic like this White House card that could be a pay-per-view event. But other than that, it looks like we got off the pay-per-view model, and I think it's a super fan-friendly deal. I think it's good for the UFC to get out of ESPN for sure.
No, I'm definitely looking forward to just kind of seeing what they're gonna do in terms of even just events and production and stuff like that. Because I know that Dana had. I just wonder what they're going to use that money for. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different options of what they could do with it, whether it's towards fighter pay, um, just even building up their events even more, doing a lot more stuff of just around the community and stuff like that, rather than uh, trying to build up one thing. I guess like PIs and stuff like that is what I'm trying to say. I bet a lot of that money is going to go towards new performance institutions, all across the globe. But yeah, I'm just I'm just so glad they're done with ESPN. I've had so many issues with ESPN that it's just become such a hassle, and it's not even fun to look forward to even using their app. For example, I can't even watch the old pay-per-views anymore. For whatever reason, I can't do that. I can't watch any of the old some of the old fight nights. I can't watch. And I'm not the only one with this issue, thankfully. But the other guy that was saying he had the same issue was being told by ESPN support that just because he's not in the right region, he can't watch it, which is complete bullshit. Like, dude, I probably purchased for it. I should be able to watch this anytime I want. That's ridiculous that we're going towards a path of, well, you're not in the right region, so you can't watch it even though you paid for it in that region that you're currently still in, and still can't watch it. So I just hope Paramount's a lot more flexible. I hope CBS is a lot more flexible. Hopefully that means we're getting fight nights a lot more frequently on TV. I think a big thing that was hurting the UFC was the strictness of ESPN going, in order to watch our fight nights that aren't going to be paired with CBS, like the rare fight nights are. Um, it was such a restriction for UFC fans to have to get an ESPN Plus subscription to be able to go watch certain events, to be able to go look at certain stats, certain stories, and stuff like that. And I'm just super excited for a new deal, a new partnership with someone other than ESPN. I really thought I was going to go with Netflix, though. I really thought I was going to go with Netflix rather than Paramount and CBS, but I'm not complaining at all.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of issues with ESPN for sure. If you remember that pay-per-view, I think it was a month ago, 2 months ago, where it was a Pereira fight, and people couldn't even log in to watch it until the main event happened, or even after, because of the paywall and whatever issue they were having. So a lot of people missed that fight. So I think a lot of people have the same sentiment about ESPN. I don't know how done the UFC is with ESPN because as far as I know, with this Paramount deal, things like Road to UFC and Contender Series aren't offered or aren't going to Paramount. And I think Dana and the UFC are looking to get those streamed in other places so they can expand even more. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with those. But with the Paramount deal, they're required to have 43 UFC events held annually within the US. And I think that's also another important thing to bring up was the Paramount deal is only U.S. based, so the UFC is still looking for a home to uh, to stream the UFC globally, and I think they can do that maybe with Netflix, or look to stay with ESPN or other outlets outside of the U.S. as a way for them to expand also. So I think they're using this to really expand their reach throughout the streaming services. And it sounds like this deal came together pretty quickly because it was originally supposed to be for some fight nights throughout the year, and then um, Paramount had ended up getting another deal done that gave them a lot of extra money to use, and the next day they signed the UFC completely. So I think it'll be interesting. Um, I'm excited to see how that plays out. Paramount says they're not raising any prices, so you can get it for $12.99 ad free, which will be nice. My main concern is how did the fighters benefit from this? What is fighter pay going to look like? Because the fighters, unlike other sports, they're independent contractors to the UFC, so they don't have like a union to fight for their pay. So they're not getting a portion of this 7.7 billion like the NBA or NFL would if they signed a massive deal like this. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with fighter pay, especially because they're getting rid of a lot of incentive like pay-per-view points that the fighters were making a lot of money off of. It'll also be interesting to see how they handle superstardom because pay-per-view points, for guys like Conor McGregor, that's really how they made all their money and became super popular and made the UFC a bunch of money. And I don't know if this deal takes away from that or if they'll find ways to a different avenue to make that happen. I don't know what the fighter pay will look like. I don't know if it'll be fighters will get paid more or if they'll be able to do brand deals again on their shorts and whatnot. Um, it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. And another thing is I have a concern about is since there's no pay per view and they don't have to necessarily. I know they said they're doing numbered cards throughout the year, but how big are those cards going to be? Are they just going to be, well, it's not a pay per view. We're not getting pay per view points here, so we don't necessarily have to build the biggest card, and every card will look like a fight night. I think that's stuff that we'll have to see how it plays out with this new deal. I know they'll start off the new year in 2026 with their first card, probably be a big one, and then they're talking about in July having um, the fight at the White House. But other than that, I'm curious to see how this is going to look from a fight night standpoint and those numbered cards and fighter pay.
Yeah, no, I'm really interested to see kind of what they're going to do with fighter pay as well. Just because, like you were saying, like if they're independent contractors, they're not going to get any of that money. So again, like what is that money really going towards? Because they're already getting a ton of money for sponsors. They're already getting a ton of money for their streaming revenues from UFC Fight Pass, and then I'm sure they're getting stuff from ESPN Plus and whatnot. And then along with the custom shorts that Venom's doing now, I'm sure if Paramount was like, okay, you have to let these fighters put on their own sponsors again, I'm sure Venom's going to be like, well, what the hell? Like, what did we do? Like they're almost getting punished for just being a part of the UFC. If that's the case, where their shorts are going to get covered up, and they're just kind of another brand of shorts that they're just putting on, rather than being the
Yeah,
shorts of the UFC.
to be honest, I wish they would get rid of Venom. I think Venom gear is ugly. I think and them not being able to put brands and sponsorships on their shorts, I think took a big paycheck away from the fighters. But I'm not a fan of Venom gear either. I think and the
I
custom shorts now for some fights are starting to look a little bit better, but
I think some of the custom shorts have looked good. I don't think all of them have. Like I think like Hamzat's that got released today, I think or yesterday. Um, I think they look good, but I think they're just a little corny. You know,
Yeah, I think
um,
so as
I
well.
I don't like the blue. I don't understand the blue, to be honest. I thought they were going to do more of like a black and white sort of thing, almost like Islam's. But
Yeah,
I just, and again, I think it's weird that we're starting to get, I don't know, just like so many. It's interesting to see like the path the shorts are taking, because you had Reebok that was very simple, right? And personally, I was a big fan of the Reebok shorts. I love like the championship shorts. Fucking, oh my god, those things were perfect in my opinion. But anyways, um, when Venom first came out with their shorts, I didn't like that design. I'm with you. I thought it was like a bit too much. I thought it was like just a little. I don't know. It was just too busy. You know what I mean? Like it was like almost like I'm trying to pay attention to the shorts rather than the fight, because of how many lines and designs they were trying to do on those. And then I don't mind the new ones, the most recent ones they've done. I still think that they're just, I don't know, they're kind of too plain now. And I know it sounds like, like you can't get it perfect, you know what I mean? But like at the same time, it's like okay, like that's why though you had certain fighters wear their sponsors, because they were unique to that sponsor. Like how many guys were really repping Nike back then? You had John Jones and you know what I mean. So
and
like, well, you
oh,
just
go
had
ahead.
like such
Yeah,
a small quantity of fighters that were able to be given elite sponsorships. And I think with that being able to come back, if it ever does, I don't know if Venom will eventually see themselves out, or I guess when their contract's done and stuff like that, like whether or not they'll like want to renew. Um, and I think obviously that's a conversation for the UFC as well to kind of think about. But it's just going to be interesting to see how Dana handles that money and where he puts it, because again, I think a lot of it's going to go into PIs and them trying to expand globally in that way. But who knows? I just I hope the fighters get a little bit more money for what they do right now. And considering pay per view points for champions, I think that they'll just get like a base pay. I think all champions will get like X amount, and then they'll go from there with like behind the door, bonuses and stuff like that. But it'll be interesting to see how they handle that with their superstars and their champions, and they're people who actually bring in a good draw compared to some of the prelim guys that are consistently on the prelims, for a reason and whatnot. But yeah, it's just, and then like you were saying too, like with the events, it'll be interesting to see how they're going to be put together, because again, if they're not having to stack up these pay per views to sell as many pay per views as they can, then what's the point of stacking a card?
yeah, that's my biggest concern is fighter pay, yes, but how the events look. Are they going to really put all into it if they're not getting paid for how many people buy the card? But also, they could be based on viewership points instead of pay-per-view points. How many viewers tuned in? Maybe they get some cut of something like that.
Yeah, yeah. So like almost like pay per view points, but like like just hurdles and viewership and stuff like that for them to receive a certain bonus and stuff like that. I could see that happening, and I don't think that'd be really any different than the pay per view model, considering that it's still coming from a number amount of viewerships. But I think that is going to be the closest thing that we could get to still fight nights, if that's the case. Because if they're trying to load up these fight nights, these guys that are headlining and co-main eventing and stuff like that are going to want bigger attention. You know, I I'm just kind of surprised the fighters themselves haven't said stuff like that before, though. With the whole like, man, I mean, I'm obviously that I don't expect them to say this out loud, but like, I'm surprised some of them haven't been caught saying something like, "I can't believe I would put like on this shitty of a card." You know what I mean? Or something along those lines.
Yeah, and just like you said, I hope the UFC is putting that money to good use to make bigger events. I know they're expanding. They're in talks of expanding the Apex and bringing a bigger audience into the Apex. So maybe that'll make things more fun for those fight nights in the Apex. They'll be able to do bigger events like the White House and more stuff in the Sphere and bigger international events that make fights fun. I just don't want it to get stagnant and have boring fight nights and it just kind of be like numbered events or just like a fight night and not super interesting and some of this money's going to fucking slap fighting and whatnot.
Oh my god, dude! I hope not. I hate that shit so much. But
It's yeah.
uh, yeah, don't even get me fucking started on that shenanigans. It's just that's straight up what that shit is. It's just shenanigans. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
it's the dumbest shit I've ever seen.
it's a harsh word to use, I know, but I mean that's just what it is.
It's
But an interesting point that you brought up though was that you you did say, and correct me if I misheard you, but I think you did say that a contender series, looking for a fight, road to UFC, all that stuff is not going to be with Paramount.
correct. So that stuff is not part of this deal. What's part of this deal is fight nights and numbered events for the UFC specifically. So, from what
Interesting.
I understand, is the UFC is still looking for a home for contender series, looking for a fight, road to the UFC. I think I think Dana's going to use that to expand into other streaming services. I don't know if those are big enough to go on something like Netflix, but maybe stay with ESPN, maybe go to these other outlets because you got to think too. TKO, who owns the UFC, has a partnership with the WWE also, or they own the
Hmm.
WWE also, and ESPN is a big partner with them. So is Netflix. So
You know,
it'll be
I
interesting
could
to.
really see them actually going to Netflix with those. I know you said like Netflix might be a little bit too big, but I do think that Netflix has done good with certain shows. See, now my only concern with that is just, Netflix kind of getting their hands on it and then them making it their way. But knowing Dana, like I can't really see that happening. But I do think that if they were to maybe even combine looking for a fight and not road to UFC, sorry, but or I guess even road to UFC or contender series, and turn that into like a traveling show and be able to really put their foot stamp in more than one country, maybe by a week by week basis, turn that into a season, of 10 episodes or something like that, to where you have certain fighters that you're looking at, to where it's kind of like looking for a fight, and then you could turn it into maybe a shorter season somehow of having like these full cards in a way, but I guess in an Ultimate Fighter sort of way, but not like, staying with a group for X amount of weeks and then having them fight for a UFC contract, more of contender series just traveling around the world.
Yeah, I think that would be. Um, I think that would be good. I'm just not sure if Dana wants to combine those.
Hmm.
I think he likes as many avenues as possible to bring attention to the sport and to the UFC and his interests also.
No, for
I think
sure,
he's
for
also going
sure.
to do big stuff with that ES or that UFC BJJ. So I think that'll be looking for a home also, unless it stays with ESPN. And I don't know, it'll be. I'm not sure what they want to do with it. I think it'll be interesting to see where those end up and what streaming services. I hope it's not too spread out because I don't want to save money from ESPN, but have to go out and get four different streaming services to see these other products also.
Hmm. I'm just kind of surprised he hasn't utilized the UFC app more than he has like already. I think that that's such an underrated tool that he has not. I don't think he pushes it out as much as he should.
No,
I
well, they use that for all the regional and kickboxing fights and stuff like that.
hmm
Because I know all the regional fights across the country pretty much are streamed on the ESPN or the UFC app.
yeah, but see, like that's what I'm talking about though. Like even if you were to include, I think he has like looking for a fight on there as well. Um, but I, I just think that if you were to just even promote that app a bit more, you would have more attention go to it. And I think if you make the subscription a little bit more reasonable, um, although you do get it quite a bit for what you do pay for, but I do think it needs to be just a little more reasonable within like the typical subscription range, you know. But what's it at right now? I don't even know.
That's that. The
Maybe it's changed.
turnout.
Let's see, UFC
Oh, the UFC. I think it's only $9.99 or something like that.
for real?
Yeah. I think it's $9.99.
Let's see, UFC Fight Pass subscription cost. Uh, okay, Google said never mind. I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, because I had the subscription. Well, last time I had it, it was $9.99. UFC Fight Pass.
Sign up today.
I'm
Okay,
seeing 99 or 95.99 annually.
is that the only
ten
thing they
dollars a
have?
month. $10 a month or 95.99 annually.
That's actually not that bad.
No, I mean they
So
all they offer a lot of stuff on there if you're interested in watching the regional fight scene. 'Cause there's a lot of fights on there. They hold every Thursday, Friday. They have kickboxing. They have some BJJ tournaments and stuff like that. I know you can watch uh, some grappling, just straight BJJ tournaments on there. I know a lot of guys that I used to train with compete on that stuff.
well, I mean, yeah, I'm just surprised he hasn't pushed it out as much. Oh my god, as much as he could have with how much is on there. But again, I think he needs to add one of the bigger things on there to make it worth going to go get, because a lot of these guys aren't going to go watch regional fights, unfortunately, and they're not going to go watch a lot of the kickboxing stuff that's on there or jiu-jitsu stuff that's on there, because I don't even think really the what is it, like the UFC Invitational Pass thing that they do, like the big BJJ thing that they put together. I don't even think that gets as many views as they probably hope it does, unless they have like big names in it.
No, and I mean that goes back to the slap fighting thing. I think Dana was promoting that more than anything else, and now he's moving on to this um, UFC BJJ thing, which is good for the sport in a way. I still want him taken away from the UFC product, focusing on these other side projects also.
Yeah, no, I think that's the biggest fear. But um, speaking of taking away from products, Francis Ngannou has taken away quite a bit from the PFL.
Oh yeah,
uh,
it sounds like they're not happy with him.
dude, I don't blame them. I think I think when the deal initially got released, you know, and was like announced to the world and stuff, that Ngannou would be with the PFL and he's going to be fighting. He's going to be helping with UFC, or not UFC, PFL Africa. He's going to be helping with fighter pay. And then he went to go do 2 boxing matches, 1 MMA fight, and nothing since. And even then, that 1 MMA fight took so fucking long to put together, because it was pretty clear that he didn't want to go do that since he got a taste for boxing money. And he's already getting paid by them. It's not like he needs to go fight. Like, he's legit getting paid as a fucking board member or chair member or whatever he is, you know, for being in charge of PFL Africa. And then he doesn't go to the events over in PFL Africa, hasn't been to either one of them. And you know that's got to be a big kick in the gut for the owner, going, dude, you told me you were going to be like the spearhead of this thing, and you're not even at the event. Like, that's insane. That's insane. And I saw people giving him, I guess, the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, well, he had that accident with that girl and then he lost his son. It's like, dude, like, I get all that. That's super tragic and all. But at the same time, I think there's been enough time in between all of that to where you can get back going. I mean, you're obviously well enough to go do a boxing match with Deontay Wilder, but you're going to not put your attention into PFL, who's paying you to do something as close to a real job as you've ever gotten, probably. I mean, besides, obviously like mining and shit like that, but like corporate wise, you know what I mean? Like a real job in terms of helping out a promotion. Like that's insane that you're just kind of completely ditching them for a whole different sport and being like, suckers. That's just insane to me.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, those tragedies that Nagano um, was dealing with, the loss of his son. I don't think that's ever something you recover from. And then he had that tragic accident where um, what was it? Two people passed away, or that it was it just that one little girl that passed away
I
in that
think it was just that
accident.
one girl. Yeah.
Um, and so he's been kind of dealing with those things, and I mean that's not easy for anyone to lose your son and then another child die in an accident caused by you. So I can understand why he's taking time and how he's dealing with those things. I can only imagine what that feels like. But at the same time, from the business perspective of it, um, he was already in bad graces with the UFC. He wanted out to go do this boxing stuff. Um, and Dana openly said that Francis was bad at business and only cared about himself. And then you have someone like, or a league like the PFL come out and risk everything to sign you, to advocate for the fighters, to have bigger pay for the fighters, to spearhead PFL Africa, and to even allow you to go do your own boxing stuff to make the money that you want, as long as you come back and do your business with the PFL. And like you said, he hasn't held up that end of the bargain. He didn't even show up to PFL Africa, which was supposed to be his project. Um, I think it's just bad business. I don't know what the PFL is gonna do with him. It sounds like they're openly not happy with him. So I I don't know what they're gonna do with him, what his future looks like in combat sports. It sounds like, and I don't want to say it like he only cares about himself, but it sounds like after he got his boxing payday, he went back and did a second boxing match and got another big payday. He came back and did that PFL event, but he didn't seem very interested in it, and he didn't sound interested in doing another fight. So I don't know. I want to know where his head's at in this and why he hasn't come out and said anything and why he's not being open to the public or to the PFL on what his intentions are. I think it's just bad for business, and I think the PFL took a huge risk on him, and I think it's kind of biting him now.
Oh yeah, it's totally biting them. And to be honest, I think he's just happy he has as much money as he does right now. I mean, and fair play to him. Like that, I completely understand that. But at the same time, like as a man, you have to be like, yeah, I can't feel good about not holding up my end of the bargain, especially when I'm getting paid the way I am by an organization. Like that's insane to me. And um while you were talking, I looked up the incidents, like him losing his son, which again, I completely understand to your point of no one probably ever recovers from that. Um, but I mean, I really don't want to sound like cold hearted, but like that was over a year ago. That happened in April of 2024. You know, so like that happened quite a while ago, and he was doing stuff even after that. So I feel like that's my point. It's just that like he people are giving him that excuse, but it's like, dude, he was able to go do 2 boxing matches and an MMA fight within all that time, and then now that's the excuse is that oh he's having this and that trouble, that happened a while ago. I know that the girl incident happened. I think it said in May of this year, so like that's recent. I understand that, but again, you're still between that time and in this whole thing. You've talked about boxing Deontay Wilder, so obviously that's not too big of an issue in your head if you're talking about trying to go get another big payday. And I think that's where like it's rubbing me the wrong way, where I'm just kind of like, okay, it's pretty obvious like where your priorities are, and it's not with the PFL. I think it's mainly just about him, and at the end of the day, we all have to look out for our own self. But again, it goes back to kind of as a man, you have like an obligation to an organization that's paying you to do a certain job, and you're not doing that certain job from the looks of it and from the sound of it.
And it's not just that they're what they're paying him, but it's the risk they took, and also their acceptance to allow you to go do these boxing matches, which the UFC wouldn't. Uh, I think that's where they were like, we scratched your back, and you were supposed to scratch ours, but
Yeah.
you're not holding up that end.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I,
I
and I
just
think that's a big reason why the UFC doesn't want people doing that in their organization, because then you have incidents like these, to where
yeah,
you have guys, and obviously I don't think everyone would be like Ngannou to where they'd be doing the same exact thing in this situation, but I do think that you would have more guys than not go. You know what? I'm probably gonna take another boxing match before I get back into the UFC octagon and fight there.
look at Connor. I mean, his
Exactly.
he came up with so much money, and he's come back on his own account, but it's been how many years in between each time. I think the only reason he came back to fight Dustin a second time was because he lost, and his ego could not let that go.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no, for sure. That was the only
he
reason why
can't,
that third fight happened, because apparently the second fight was supposed to be a warm up match for Pacquiao.
yeah. So he thought he was going to walk through Dustin, someone he's beat before. He walked through Cowboy on his return, and then he was supposed to come in and just walk through Poirier. Poirier knocked him out, and then his ego could not let that go, and he came in. He broke his leg, and I still don't think he's been able to let that go. But he's not coming back. I say he's coming back. I don't think
He's
he's
not
coming
coming
back.
back.
I don't think he should come back. I think I think he needs to focus on his life outside the UFC and figure out what the fuck he's doing, because he's got all those court cases that and appeals that did not win. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
but
and with his whole deal, it's sad to see kind of everyone always kind of talks about that whole comparison between him and the UFC when he was young and still chasing that title and that money and that legacy, and then you look at him now to where he's almost kind of just pissing it all away, to where it was just like, damn, dude, like that's just completely night and day difference between one person, and it's really sad to see because that guy
oh,
could have been like more of a legend than he already is, but unfortunately,
and
he's
I
just
think
doing the things he's doing.
and I think that's a reason to see like why the UFC doesn't allow their fighters to go do these boxing events or these big events anymore. Um, because they just become not only too big for the organization but too big for themselves. And once you let a guy like Connor go box Floyd, or they're gonna go box uh, Tyson Fury. I mean, they have all the money they could ever want, all the fame they could ever want. Why would they need to come back to fight in a main event where they have maybe 500,000 people buying a pay per view?
Well, and I think like the big thing that people didn't consider was, and Dana was saying this before he left the UFC, and he was saying that Francis wasn't really a draw and stuff like that. I mean, and if you look at it, like he's not wrong. The pay per view numbers in the UFC weren't that great. The only reason why he was able to sell a whole bunch of boxing fights because he was fighting Tyson fucking Fury and Anthony
Yeah,
Joshua, like two of the biggest names in the heavyweight world right now, besides Usyk and all those other guys. But like that's still in the top five most famous top heavyweights right now in the world, and he's the B side to that, 100 times out of 100. There's no
Yep.
reason why Francis would ever be an A side to that fight. And then you go back and look at the PFL fight that he had with their champion, dominated him, and then just fucking dipped. And,
Yeah.
and just
And
said, "Fuck this, I'm out. Like, I already beat your guy. Like, what else do you have to fucking offer? I'm gonna go make more of that boxing money to where I'm not gonna get knocked. Where I'm, probably gonna get knocked the fuck out again. But, I'm gonna get paid a hell of a lot more doing it."
yeah, I agree. Um, it'll be interesting how the PFL handles it. I just wish Nagano would publicly speak about it and maybe address why he wasn't at UFC Africa, or I mean PFL Africa. I think I think that's where the problem is, because that was his event. That was put together, spearheaded by him, and he wasn't there. So from what I hear, it was a success, regardless of him being there or not. Kind of move on, and now that the UFC is off ESPN, maybe PFL will get a little bit bigger, in the sole fighting league on ESPN. So
Yeah, I could see that. I think at this point it's a little too late for them, unfortunately. I mean, with how much like Ngannou is draining them, because I was watching a YouTube video earlier about I'm sure some people will know this guy's account, but the ITP MMA on YouTube. He was talking about how Ngannou was draining more of the PFL, and it's not really hurting the fighters. While I 100% disagree with that, because all that money you could be giving, or all that money you're giving to Francis Ngannou, you could be giving to those Bellator champs who have been asking for a fight since they got there. And even some of the PFL guys, they're like, dude, like, I'm ready to fucking fight. You know what I mean? Like, it's stupid how much of these guys' times is wasted because they don't have enough money to afford them, but yet they bought out a whole different organization acting like they could fucking buy them out. But again, I think that went on the whole, piggybacking off of Ngannou signing and trying to make them as big as they can, and him providing a lot more of a star power than,
and
what
their
they've
Jake
actually
Paul
got.
signing.
Yeah. Dude, what the hell? There's nothing's come of that. Nothing's come of that at
No,
all.
nope.
Like
It
no
was
no
all
way they thought they were gonna get something out of Jake Paul. Like that's insane.
no,
In MMA, like that, come on, dude. It,
it's
it
all
go it goes back to the
headlines.
whole boxing money thing. Like they'd much rather make the boxing money than the PFL money, and I don't fucking blame them. Why the fuck else? Like why would I want to go fight in PFL where I'm gonna get hurt way more in way different ways than
For
go
less
do
money.
boxing where I can have a way better chance of winning and make a shit ton of more money. You know what I mean? Like it makes sense why they're doing it. It's wrong morally, I think, to a lot of us, but at the same time, like PFL's the one looking like a fucking dummy.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
And what the hell?
Mismanaged.
Like
Yeah, they're
yeah,
super
there's
mismanaged,
mismanaged. Yeah, exactly.
and
And
I don't. Maybe they'll take advantage of UFC leaving ESPN and be able to showcase a little bit more. But as of right now, I don't think they'll stick around very long. I think they'll meet the same fate that Bellator did, and then most fighters will be moving on, trying to get into the UFC.
yeah, or they'll be going overseas to the Ryzen or one
Yeah,
or going back to their respective sports, whether it's like kickboxing or boxing or some shit like that, to where they have a chance to move up a ladder again, unlike where they're at right now. But yeah, it's super sad to see that, to be honest, because I mean, even those Bellator guys who have been coming over recently, there were a lot of the ones that were like, I've been trying to get a fucking fight since PFL took over, and I haven't been able to get anything. I had to get released from the company because they realized that they weren't able to give me a fight, which is insane, especially the
yeah.
top
I
level guys that they were releasing.
know they don't even advertise their events heavily. Like if you're not in
No,
tune with the PFL, you don't know the events are going on. They're going to
no,
fucking
they're
like,
just as bad as fucking boxing now.
yeah. Oh,
But
before we get too deep into that, let's recap some of this last weekend's fight card.
yes, sir.
Um,
Let's do that.
what do you want to? Which fight do you want to start off on?
Well,
Well, so we had some fun ones. I want to. I think the prelims were fun. Couple couple weird decisions happened on the prelims. And then Euros Medic won a KO. Jocelyn Edwards. I know I said last week that her fight probably wouldn't be very interesting. She was kind of a boring fighter, and I want to publicly apologize to her because forget women's MMA. That was one of the nastiest three-piece combos I have seen in the UFC. Amazing finish. I think that was an amazing win, and I hope she keeps up some performances like that. And then the next fight, Elijah Smith looking like Rampage Jackson with a
oh,
someone tried to, or Kazama tried to get a triangle choke on him and slam KO'd him. I mean, that was beautiful. It was. I felt bad for him.
yeah, that was scary to watch, dude. Because, when I was watching it live, and then he slammed him. Obviously, the slam was like just really nasty to look at in general. But then you had them cut to commercial, and then them come back, and he
Yeah,
was still down. It was like, oh shit, like this is like one of those really bad ones, man. Like that was really tough to see. But I'm glad he got up. He was fine. He was eating Five Guys after the fight. Um, so yeah,
yeah.
hopefully he's recovering well because that was a nasty slam.
I saw some guys that were kind of torn on slamming being allowed like that. Because if you're not allowed to punch in the back of the head, but you could slam someone on the back of their dome and knock them out, what's the difference there? I like it. I think it was. If you're gonna throw a triangle on me and this is my only escape, I'm gonna do it.
See, that's the fair point right there, in my opinion, is that if you're not going to give me the tools to get out of a fight ending, threatening submission, then what why the hell am I even fucking doing this? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Give me, this is a fucking fight. Like give me every single chance that I can get to get out of this and be the winner. If I'm not allowed to slam him at some point, like that's going to be tough for guys who are in arm bars. I mean, all those arm bar KOs that we've gotten in the past couple of years, like I feel
yeah.
like those would be next on the chopping block in terms of being gone and not allowed. Uh,
Or,
and
or like
but
some stuff like Andrade slamming Namajunas and winning
yeah,
that fight.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff like that that would be taken away, and those I mean, those were really big moments. I mean, you had the UFC, I think it was the Austin or the San Antonio card, with the back-to-back slam KOs. Like, we would have never had that if, let's say, if that was banned. We wouldn't have had that recent slam KO, not the triangle one, but the other armbar one that wasn't that long ago either. Um, and then the triangle one tonight. It would suck to see that go away. But again, I understand the concern of slamming someone like that, like we saw this past weekend, because of the whole back of the head thing. But
Not it. I'm
again, at
not
the same
against it.
time, yeah, I'm not against it either. I understand the concern for it, but it's almost like the same thing with like knee stomps. Like I'm a big fan of knee stomps. I don't give a shit if people don't like them because I think they're a very effective tool, and I think slamming is a very effective tool. You know what I mean? Like, and people are upset that this guy's gonna get slammed in the back of his head. He could get really fucking hurt. This guy could fucking hyperextend his knee and tear everything in his knee. Like it's the sport, man. Like people gotta fucking grow up at some point.
Yeah, if it were up to me, I'd go back to the rules where you were allowed to fucking soccer kick someone down on the fucking ground. Back in the day, like,
I
it's
wouldn't
a
mind it,
fucking
man.
fight. Because I mean, I'm glad that they changed the rule of like what a grounded opponent looked like with the knees,
Hmm.
where they were just able to stick a hand on the ground and they weren't going to be able to get kneed. I thought that was so cheap for the longest time. Like, if you have a knee, you fucking need. Like I I like. I mean, everyone who watches UFC likes technique, but they like violence, and it's a fight. If you're in a fight, you're not gonna be like, "Well, I had my hand on the ground. You can't knee me in the face."
How do you feel about stomping?
Do it.
I feel like stomping is borderline where we're getting kind of like, okay, this is like a fucking attempt of murder. Like
I mean,
on
okay,
certain body parts, obviously, but like,
within
I
reason.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
If the
Like,
guy's already knocked out and like it's a follow up shot and you just stomp an already unconscious body, like that's a little bit different than like um someone someone's throwing up kicks from the bottom and you just decided to throw a stomp back at them to go 1 for 1. Like I think that's a little bit different than if they're already unconscious and you just boot an
yeah.
unconscious body in the head.
So, how would you feel, let's say, if someone was like down on the ground, like on their back, right, and they had the other opponent like standing up, like, getting ready for a stomp, and they tried to stomp them in the middle of their chest? How would you feel about that?
I mean, I think that's legal. I
Damn,
think it
you're a
is.
savage.
I
And
think it
see,
is right now. I mean,
no, no, well, no, 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 you can't stomp at all, because that one guy stomped on that one guy's leg, and then they talked about it like I guess on the next round where they're like, yeah, he shouldn't have been able to do that. Like that was an illegal
so
move.
what's the difference between? I'll give you two examples of Michelle Pineda doing a backflip onto someone who's fucking
Oh,
grounded
no, no,
and
no,
kneeing
no,
them,
100%. I think that was a big argument even back then. I think like those should be illegal as well, or
or
like those should be illegal. Um, what do you call it? Like strikes because of a grounded opponent, with a kick to the face practically.
another one, Khalil Roundtree, when someone turtled up, he stood up and kicked them in the ribs. I think a stomp on the chest is the same as that.
Um, I
It's
think
just you're
I think
grounded, but you're not laying on your back.
I think the difference between that is
Is
that,
side versus middle.
well, yeah, yeah, well, okay, that for one, for sure. Because I think if you were to stomp in the middle, okay, I think the thing with that is that if you were to soccer kick someone who's down like on all fours, right, like that one guy was, kicked him in the stomach, let's say like the side of the ribs, like I don't think that that's as bad because he can go with the kick. You know what I mean? Compared to stomping someone in the middle of their chest while they're on the ground with their back, they have nowhere to go. So all that force is going straight into their chest, which I think with the chest, like the middle of the chest being a bit too dangerous of a spot. Like, because I mean, you could puncture a lung like that really bad. You could, I mean, puncture any other fucking artery that's like right there. I think that's the only reason why I'm kind of like, I don't know about that one. Because I think like stomping to like, let's say like I think like a stomp to like a leg or something like that. Like, I don't even think that's bad. That's no different than like a normal leg stomp. But um, yeah, I don't know how I feel about like a stomp in the middle of a chest. But soccer kicks and stuff like that, all for.
If they're gonna get rid of that, get rid of the up kick. Like, why is someone allowed to try and
Yeah.
kick me in the face while they're laying down, but I can't hit them back? I have to dive down to punch them, or in the grappling exchange, I can't kick them back like that. I just
Yeah.
have to
And
kick
and
their
the weird
legs.
the weird thing too is that you see people like axe kick whenever that's the case. But even then, like half the time that looks like a fucking stomp.
Yeah, and that's another point. Like, what's the difference between an axe kick and a stomp? Like, I'm leading with the heel.
Yeah, I think because your leg is like already, I don't know how much more power you would get. Like I'm just curious to see like even scientifically, like how much more power would you really get from doing like, being as flexible as like arm on, let's say, and being able to do an axe kick from all the way up there and all the way down compared to doing a stomp in that same exact spot and position. Like I wonder like what would really be more powerful.
Anyway, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we're getting off topic here, but yes, um, I, I'm, I'm all for uh, that old school kind of fighting. I'm for the slamming. If someone's trying to put me in a triangle or a fighter in a triangle, they should, and that's their only avenue to escape. Let them. It's a fight. It's not a.
Yeah, no, no, I
Yeah,
understand. I understand the reasoning for sure, like behind like the wants and kind of like I guess like just pride rules. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
understand
Pride
the
rules.
yeah, yeah, I understand the complete want for pride rules and stuff like that. I think I think stomping's kind of a weird middle ground for me. Just allowing it on certain parts and stuff like that. Just I think the same thing with how some
A lot
people
of
are with
soccer
like
kicks. Yeah.
knee. Yeah. Well, just how some people are with even like knee stomps and knee locks. Like because I mean some people are like, yeah, we need to ban fucking ankle locks and stuff like that. I'm like, what the fuck for, dude? Like that's a submission people learn. People need to learn how to
Yeah.
get out of it. It's as simple as that.
Well,
You know what I mean?
and then think about how many times you see fighters go for a heel hook in a fight and how unsuccessful it is most of the time.
Hmm. Exactly. I mean, it takes the best of the best to pretty much get that like consistently.
Yeah.
Um, but like, yeah,
But
it's just a God. It'd be really interesting to kind of see on like
the
where
line
like
is
even just the
gone.
community's mind is at with like certain rules and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, for you guys listening, feel free to comment or give us your opinion on where you think those rules should lie or where that line should be drawn and what y'all think should be allowed, shouldn't be here in the UFC. And if y'all like the pride rules or if you like a little bit more regulation with the grounded opponents and such, or even how y'all feel about a slam KO.
Yeah, that's definitely the talking point after after this past weekend's KO, dude. Is that one was fucking just that was just nasty. That was brutal.
But
But
moving on,
yeah,
to
yeah.
open up
Getting
the main card, you had Christian Leroy Duncan knocking out Eric Anders with a spinning elbow and then followed up with some
oh,
shots. Um, you had another
nasty work.
decision with Mike Johns and Gene Matsumoto. Andre Philly and Christian Rodriguez ended in a split decision. I think that was all on Philly's side winning. I don't know where
Yeah,
the split was.
dude, I don't know how a judge saw that at all for Rodriguez, but I'm glad Philly won. Philly's a solid guy. Love that guy, dude. Fucking
Yep.
love watching him fight.
And then you had Lasmin Lucindo beating Angela Hill
Woo!
in a
Fuck Angela
pretty
Hill.
in a pretty big decision. I don't think it was even close. There was a lot of grappling exchanges in there.
It's an Angela Hill hate watch party every time she's on for me.
And then in the co-main event, you have Steve Ursig beating Ode Osborne in a pretty close fight. I'm not gonna lie. The first round, it looked like Ode was
Oh,
gonna take that fight, and then Ursig kind of reversed position and then took the back, and then it was a back and forth fight the whole way. To be honest with you, some were saying that they could see an avenue where Ode won the fight. Um, Ursig won the decision, but it was a close fight, man.
no, it definitely was. It was a lot closer than I think a lot of people were expecting. Ode is one of those sneaky guys, though. Like, I think a lot of people were saying this, that he's a really good fighter in that first round and then just falls off second and third round. And
Yeah,
I think he just gets either, yeah, I don't know if he gets ahead of himself. I don't know if he gets overwhelmed with kind of where he's at in the fight, but like something goes on to where he's not 100% like he was in that first round for some reason. And if he gets it together, man, he could be dangerous in that division. But Urseg, he in a weird way, he pulled out that veteran experience from fighting those top guys and said, "All right, I'm not winning in the stand up. He's obviously faster than me. I have to go take this at the ground and win it that way." And hey, dude, he won by MMA. Fuck yeah, we'll take a dub, especially snapping a 3-fight losing streak like that. Man, that's got to be tough on a lot of different fighters' heads going into a fight, knowing that they're on
no,
a
but
losing streak, getting ready to get
he
cut
should
possibly.
he. I don't know what it was, man, but like that's not the same fighter that we saw in that Pantoja fight. Like that was a close fight in that Pantoja fight. So to see him come out and squeeze a win by Ode Osborne like that, man, um, it's I don't know if it's losing the confidence after a title fight like that or what it is. Because after that title fight, he went on to get KO'd by Kai Kara France, and then he lost to Brandon Moreno in a decision. And he squeezed by this, but it just I don't know. He didn't look like the same fighter to go toe to toe with one of the best pound for pound guys in a title fight.
I think, I think, I think. Okay, don't get me wrong. I think the whole flyweight division was in a weird spot whenever Usyk got the title shot because you already looked at. He's kind of in the same position Joshua Van was in, to where you had not necessarily fighting a top guy and actually earning a really good win for a title shot, but in terms of just having someone to fight Pantoja, because Pantoja's fought everybody already. I don't think there was really anyone else like at the time. That's why he was so low ranked and still got that title shot, even after beating someone like Schnell. People were like, "What the fuck?" But understandably, everyone was like, "Well, there's no one else to fucking fight, so might as well put them two together and then get them going." But I think in a weird way he was rushed. He did very well in the Pantoja fight. I didn't think he did that bad in the Moreno fight. I think you just saw that there was that experience that put him a step behind in certain moments that allowed those other guys to get ahead in those fights. And if he's able to kind of put that veteran mindset, I think, in himself and almost build himself back up to a championship, because I think he can. I just think he has to build that confidence again, and almost like Reyes, because I think even Reyes in that Jacoby fight, I think it was the Jacoby fight that started that little streak that he has right now. Um, but even in that fight, he didn't look all that great. I think he looked pretty hesitant still. He was still kind of like, okay, I'm still trying to figure out my shots. I'm still trying to figure out Jacoby. And then, he just said, fuck it, and let that left hand go and then finished Jacoby pretty quickly. And now he's got that confidence back and he's going back on that tear again. But again, I think it's just going to take a win or two to kind of build that Steve Urseg back up to how he used to look.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's the case. I want to see him get back on another streak and make that flyweight division more exciting again, and him be a contender. Um, yeah, like you said, some of those guys they try to. I mean, Reyes, like you said, was a good example. He recently came out in an interview and said that when he lost that fight to John Jones, he left his camp, fired his coaches, and went and tried to change everything about who he was as a fighter and try to adjust what essentially what got him to the fight. And he said it kind of threw off his whole game, and he's trying to change things that didn't need to be changed. He just had a decision that didn't go his way, unfortunately. And I think a lot of those fighters kind of struggle in that sense. They get to almost the peak of that mountain, and they think they need to make those adjustments, or their confidence gets killed a little bit from losing in those big fights, and they try to make those adjustments that aren't need to be made because they got to that point. And I think it just kind of throws off who they are as a fighter.
No, 100%. And real quick though, Fluffy looked amazing in the main event. I think he
I
absolutely
have a lot
killed
to
it.
say about him. Yeah, that was honestly one of the most dominant performances I've seen in a very long time in the UFC. He did not let Delize have a single break. Anytime Delize tried to pull guard to catch some air, Hernandez stood up and said, "Nope, come back up." And then he would be back on him with pressure from the start of the bell, throwing punches, grappling. He was ragdolling him with takedowns and holding him in a turtle, putting the knee on the back of his leg so he couldn't really escape, throwing punches. You saw him try to go for guillotine. I forget what round it was. I want to say it was like round two. Um, but then he abandoned it and came back, and you had the feeling that he could have finished the fight sooner, but I feel like he just wanted to make a statement like, I belong here. I'm better than any guy you can throw out in front of me. He's on an 8 fight win streak, and he feels like he deserves to be at the top. And I think he made a huge statement. And to finish it off with that, I mean, it goes down as a rear naked choke, but he bullied him and put him in a choke and drug him across the arena until he tapped and then threw him on the ground. I mean, it was an amazing showcase from Anthony Hernandez, and I think he's a contender, and I would love to see him against someone like RDR next. Since I don't want to see the division get too stale, but I think that would be a perfect matchup, and I think he belongs up there in the top five.
No, I think he definitely belongs, especially with that cardio and that pace that he can put on a lot of people up there. I think the RDR fight is a tough fight for him personally. I think with those RDR knees, Hernandez is just he's notoriously had a soft body and is very vulnerable to body shots. So hopefully that's something that wouldn't bother him too bad in that fight because I would like to see him win that for you know getting that dub back against my boy Whitaker or for my boy Whitaker against RDR. But
Oh,
anyways,
I know.
but anyways, no. So I would like to see that though as a title eliminator because you already have Imavov and Brawlo going at it, and then them fighting is their winner is probably going to get a title shot, even over Fluffy at this point, unfortunately. But hopefully Fluffy. I think they said they were flying Fluffy up there to Chicago for this fight this weekend because he didn't take
Yep,
any
he
damage
said
at
he's
all.
going.
Yeah, sorry,
No, not at all, dude.
he no, he didn't leave without a scratch. Like it was insane.
It was one of the craziest performances I've ever seen. He he just bullied the leads a someone who doesn't get bullied, and he bullied him the entire fight and made him look like he did not belong in that cage with him. And I share the same sentiment as DC when he said post fight, he just became one of my favorite fighters in the UFC because he definitely did. With that statement of a fight and how entertaining it was, I was glued to my TV Saturday night. Like, holy shit, I can't believe what I'm watching right now.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was a super impressive performance. I mean, I do think that the Brennan Allen win was a bit better than the Delize win, but at the same time, I think even just being able to dominate someone like Delize like that was pretty telling in a lot of different ways. But yeah,
Yeah, and
props.
the fact that I feel like he could have finished the fight earlier, and he said no. I'm gonna drag this man into deep water and make him quit. Not that I can finish him. I'm gonna make him quit on himself to show that I'm a better fighter. I think that's what impressed me more because you could see anytime, like especially in the third and fourth round, and Hernandez stepped back and was like, "No, you're not. I'm not getting into your guard. Stand up." Elidze did not want to stand back up. There were times when he looked like he was going to quit on himself, and I think I think the corner could have even said, "No, we're not going back out there." With how he was performing, he wasn't. He's, and I don't want to. Hernandez was he put on an amazing performance. I don't think the Elidze showed up like he usually does, but I don't know if that's a testament to how good Anthony Hernandez is or if he just came flat. But either way, it was a crazy performance.
Yeah, I'm ready to see where he goes from here because it'll just be interesting to see him up there with those top guys.
Especially his personality, man. He does not
Oh
care.
yeah,
He said he does. He said he didn't know who was on fight card, and he's just ready to get back home and fucking smoke some blunts. Like he does not care. So
um,
it was fun. But I mean, I guess how do you feel about this upcoming weekend's card?
I'm pretty fucking pumped. Not gonna lie. Yeah, there are a lot of really good fights I'm looking forward to. Let me pull it up real quick.
I
So,
think it's a stat card from start to finish. Like
oh yes, sir. So I know we had
I
like
don't think there's a boring card or
nah
a boring fight.
on the UFC app or not UFC app, sorry, the ESPN app. You have Rodrigo Cezinado. I don't know, but they're fighting TBA. So hopefully that fight is still together, or hopefully a fight is still together for that. Um, a couple, you had a couple more like prelims that aren't really worth mentioning, but then everything from Brian Battle to Ruzaboyevon is incredible. So you have them two fighting, Barboza and Close, Hooper
Yep,
Hernandez, Andrade
yep.
Gunez, Mirshard and Olajaychik, Green Ferreira, Elliot Asakura, Cannonier MVP, Jeff Neal Prades, Leon Murphy, Pico making his debut, and you have Dricus and Hamza main event. Holy shit. This is what pay per view should look like.
No,
This
I
is
think it's a.
exactly what pay-per-view should look like.
I 100% agree. I think Brian Battle and Rubazayev being on the early prelims is a steal. That's going to be a fun fight. Barboza being early on the prelims also, you can never go wrong with it. I know he's a little later in his career, but still. Hernandez and Hooper, I think that'll be a fun grappling match. Hooper's young and he kind of is coming into his own, so that'll be fun. Um, a prelim feature card or fight with Green King Green, whatever he wants to be called, and Diego Fajeda. I don't see that going to decision. I wish Bobby Green would retire. He's taken a lot of damage, but this main card, I mean, it's going to be fireworks. I think.
I'm super excited to see Asakura fight someone at the level of Tim Elliott to kind of see where he really is. Because Tim isn't really a joke veteran. You know, he's still hanging in there with a lot of top guys. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where Asakura really is in terms of UFC level. I
Yeah,
do have Asakura
the only
winning
thing,
that, but
yeah, the
Tim
only thing
Elliott
with
could
that
pull
is
off.
his weakness that we saw with him fighting Pantoja was his grappling, and I think that's Tim Elliott's strong suit. So we'll see if he can nullify that.
Yeah. I don't think it's too big of a hole. I think in a way, I think just Pantoja being as active as he is and stuff like that, he's just constantly just able to put a move on someone. I do think he would be able to shut down Tim Elliott a little bit easier. I mean Pantoja submission was his first submission loss, surprisingly. So I think that just kind of showed the level of competition he hasn't really faced before. And again, that's why I'm really interested to see like where he's going to be at with Tim Elliott because he could definitely be a you know an out of ranked guy compared to what we thought to where he could be a top 10 guy ish. But I'm really looking forward to that fight. I think that's definitely an underrated, under the radar kind of banger. Um, and then Cannonier MVP. I was not expecting MVP to stay at middleweight. Thought he was going back down to welterweight. I could see Jared giving him some problems, but I still think that MVP just moves around too well in order to get caught by something. Unless he gets just grabbed and then wrestled. I don't see Jared winning this.
I can see an avenue to where Jared wins. To be honest, I think he's big for the division, and Page is he is a welterweight. He said he didn't go back down because he said there's no smoke at welterweight right now. No one wants to fight because everyone's trying to win that title picture. He just wants to fight somebody. Um, I think it'll be interesting. I think it's a clash of styles in a way where um, MVP is one of those real flashy fighters, and he's gonna quick and throw those crazy fun combos. And Cannoneer is gonna either want to implement that grappling or try and hit you with a big shot. So I think that'll be a fun fight, and I think Jared is a live underdog in this. But that fight can go either way, and I'm interested to see how that plays out because this is not a matchup I saw on my bingo card.
Oh no, for sure. It definitely came out of nowhere. I was kind of like, what the fuck is this? But I think if Jared's going to be looking for that big shot, he's going to be in a lot of trouble the whole night. I don't think if you can't have, I mean, shit, dude. Even Ian Gary was having to wrestle with MVP in order to get a victory. I mean, I think if someone on that level of striking is having to resort to wrestling against someone like MVP, I don't think Jared's gonna have a fun night in the stand up. He has to get that to the ground as soon as he can, just to kind of implement
And
that strength that he's gonna have over him.
and he is, like I said, he's big for the division. He's coming. He originally started out in heavyweight, so if he gets on top of MVP in some takedown scenarios and grappling exchanges, it'll be interesting how MVP deals with that kind of pressure from a bigger guy.
hmm Yeah, 100%. I mean, again, that strength could definitely just be way too big of a difference between them two, and I'm expecting it to be a really big difference, especially if they do end up clinching or grappling at some point. But yeah, if MVP just stays on the feet and is able to stick and move like he normally does, I think he wins that easily. But again, Jared just has to get some hands on him and take him to the ground in order to have a shot in this one, in my opinion.
I agree. And speaking of live dogs, man, Jeff Neal and Carlos Prates.
Woo.
Um, Jeff Neal is someone that you can never count out. He always finds a way to rise to the level of competition that he fights. Um, Prates is also a big guy. He's coming off of a loss against Ian Gary in a short notice fight that he took, but and he was surging through that division and looking good. So I think this is going to be a banger of a fight either way it goes. I think he shot, and I think it's just going to be who wants it more, who's going to swing.
It'll be interesting to see on how both guys handle each other's pressure because looking back at both um, the Jeff Neal and Gary fight and then the Pradas and Gary fight, I think Pradas was really looking for that really big shot, and I think he even mentioned this on that podcast with the Pound for Pound podcast with Usman and Cejudo. He was mentioning that he kind of threw his own game plan out the window and was looking for a really big shot because he believed that he could knock Ian out. And then obviously that wasn't the case. He looked good in that fifth round, I thought. Definitely showed heart and wanted to actually try to get the win rather than just being like, fuck, I lost, like onto the next already. But then you look at the Ian Gary and Jeff Neal fight to where Jeff was a little more hesitant, I think, because of the range and because of the sniping abilities of Ian Gary. I feel like he could run into the same problems as Prades or with Prades, but I definitely think that Prades is an easier fight than Gary is, and he's way more hittable than Gary is, especially in the style that Jeff Neal has with that boxing is just so crisp. Oh man, I fucking love watching him fight.
I agree, and I think this fight has the potential to be fight of the night. I think it's just going to be both guys just swinging and see who can connect more and who can break the will of the other guy. Um, and I think Prates is the more technical stand-up fighter, but Neal has that power in his punches and brings a different um, weapon with his punches. There's a reason he's called Hands of Steel. So I think this will be a very fun fight and a very big matchup for the welterweight division. Neal's always been kind of up there in the top of the division, but he's had um, his personal life issues that have affected his fighting career, and he doesn't seem like he's as hungry to be a champion and just more of an entertaining fighter. Which, if that's what he wants to be, man, he's doing one hell of a job. So I think this will be a fun fight.
No, I'm just really glad they rebooked it. I'm glad it wasn't one of those
Oh, me
fights that got
too.
booked one time and then it kind of was like, fuck, timing's not right. Move on. But
I know I'm a big fan of Neal and Prates both, so I think this is going to be a great fight.
uh, so co-main event, Leron Murphy taking on Aaron Pico. Leron Murphy, respect to him for honestly stepping up and taking Evoyev's place. I was really concerned we were going to be waiting a little bit longer for Pico to get here, but thankfully Murphy showed up, said, "Let's bang, let's do it. I'll take on the new guy." How do you feel about Murphy being underdog considering the competitions Pico's faced? Because I do think Leron is probably going to be his toughest fight in his career. And I do think Murphy could win it. I'm hoping for Pico, but I definitely could see Murphy winning this.
I think the odds right now reflect in a way how the fans feel about it. I don't think a lot of people are too high or too happy on how Murphy has gone undefeated and gotten to the point where he's at, because not a lot of his fights are super entertaining. He's kind of grappling and drawing out decisions, especially his last one. I mean, I'm pretty sure he got booed out of the arena on that win against what was
Emmett.
it, against Emmett, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's a lot of it. And then you see, Aaron Pico's highlight reel where he's knocking guys out, and he's got some height. Um, but if history has shown anything, these guys coming from Bellator and PFL don't necessarily do well in their first fight in the UFC, especially when they're coming in against a top contender. So I think this will be interesting to see where this competition is, where the fight goes. If it's a grappling match, I see Murphy winning. But if Pico can stop the grappling affair and keep it standing, I think that's where he will do best at, and I think he has the chance to win. I don't know. If I was betting, I would see Ron Murphy as an underdog, and most people want to jump on that, but I feel it's a trap spot either way, because I don't know
Yeah.
how this fight's going to play out.
Yeah,
To
it's
be
definitely a
honest with you,
50-50 for sure.
this is one of those, like, this is one of the hardest fights for me to read, because I don't know how the styles are going to clash and how the matchup's going to go. Um, it could be a very boring fight, or it could be forced to be one of those stand-up fights where Lerone Murphy has to show a different side of him that he's never had to bring to the UFC. I'm hoping it's that case, because to be a contender in that division, I want to see you bring that a different style than you've had to showcase so far. I don't want to see these drawn out decisions. I want you to face some adversity and come through if you're going to get a title or shot at the title.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I think like going back to like the level of competition as well, I think it'll be interesting to kind of see just where a lot of these guys are, because we had Patchy Mix, who was a champion over in a different organization, looked like a complete dog shit in his first fight. Pitbull looked completely lost against Yair, which understandable. It's Yair, you know what I mean. But like even and again, his Ige fight didn't look that great. I still think he looked really slow and really kind of just boring. Like and again, it's just kind of hoping that Pico doesn't turn into one of those guys to where like, okay, he's getting fucking outclassed, and it's really showing the level between the UFC and everyone else. And yeah, I want one of these guys to come in and actually give like some competition and you know create some buzz like in these divisions that they're coming in, because I mean Pitbull easily could have done that with Yair. I don't think easily could have won or anything like that. I don't mean it that way, but I think if he would have won, he easily would have created a huge amount of buzz for himself and possibly even gotten a title shot off of that. And then you had not Pico, Patchy, who looked like he didn't even belong on the fucking prelims. I mean, that dude didn't even know what to do. And then you look at Pico, who's coming over with, I guess, a little bit more of a highlight reel than some of those other guys. You're kind of hoping like, fuck, I hope that highlight reel lives up to the hype, because if not, like, this is gonna be really embarrassing for Bellator, PFL, shit, even Ryzen with Asakura if he loses. It'll just be interesting. The only one I can remember recently again is DeRitter.
Yeah, but he's coming from one championship,
Yeah, and
which
that's the
I
other
think the
legit
competition's a little
organization.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll
Yeah,
be interesting to
like I
see.
said, this that fight is hard for me to read, and I think it'll be I think it'll be an interesting fight and very telling for both fighters, whether Murphy belongs in the top contentionship for that title, or if Pico belongs in the UFC. If he can come in and get a big win over Murphy, then I think he's right up there in the top five. and I think the UFC will push him as such. I just hope it's a more entertaining fight and brings the best out of both fighters, and not one of those fights where we see Murphy just impose his strength in the grappling department and squeeze out another decision that we've seen time and time again.
Yeah, which again I can definitely see being the case and the outcome for that one. But real quick, let's go over our main event: Hamzat Chimaev versus Dricus Du Plessis. Interesting stat is that all the challengers who have worn custom shorts are 0-6 this year. So, will Hamzat be another victim to that curse? Or is he going to be the one to break it? Or is Dricus just going to be able to kind of make it a weird fight to where we're going, what the hell are we even watching?
I think it'll be. I think it'll be a fun fight. This is another one that I don't know which way it's going to go. Um, I can see if it goes past round two. Let's say round two, I can see being a Duplessis fight all day. I don't think Hazmat has the cardio. We've seen his cardio issues in the past. Uh, and a lot of those fights where his cardio became a real problem in welterweight. So I don't know if having the extra weight would help him in that department. But Dricus, man, you can never count him out. And he's a plus 195 underdog. I would have to take that all day. His style is so awkward. Some of the guys that he's beaten, he's not scared to grapple. He is he's tough, he's awkward, he's big for the division also. So I don't know. I can see Dricus winning this all day long, but Chimaev in that first round is a menace. I
Scary.
mean, if he gets him down and can impose his grappling will, it could be over quick. But you've seen guys like Sean Strickland openly come out and say this week that uh, he's trained with Kazmat or Kazmat Chimaev, and he he's a bully in the gym in the sense that he picks the guys who have only had one professional fight and just beats on them and doesn't take training super serious, and he has shitty cardio. And he says that he thinks Strickland is going to win. And that could be Sean Strickland just talking crazy like he always does, or that could be showing what he thinks, because he's been in there with Dricus two times, and he's trained with Chimaev before in the past. So I don't know how much to weigh in on what he's saying, but I can see a realistic scenario where Duplessis wins this.
No, I definitely could see him winning. It's a really weird fight to kind of even try to predict because I mean again it's hard to predict any Duplessis fight because it looks like he's fucking losing and then he doesn't, and then Chimaev, you don't know how he's going to be able to do in those later rounds because we've only seen him go up to 3 rounds, and every third round he's looked fucking exhausted. But I think going to the Strickland point, I think that's an older Hamzat. I think not an older Hamzat, but like, an older version of Hamzat. I think this newer version with him training the way he is and training with who he is, um, and also just being able to, I feel like, properly prepare for middleweight now, especially after the Whitaker fight, or even before the Whitaker fight, like going into that one, he looked phenomenal in terms of like just stature and everything like that. Because again, you almost kind of hope that he wasn't too lanky, you know what I mean, like for the division, and wasn't too weak. But he's got that like secret strength, I guess, that just some guys just feel and they're going, oh fuck.